All right, I think I have everything set up. Okay, so good evening and welcome to Sunday Social. Today has been a little crazy, so I'm about a couple minutes late, about 5 minutes late. Okay, so we're gonna wait until we get some people in here, get started. But I do have a lot of stuff to cover tonight, a lot of stuff that I prepared. Um, so I'm gonna wait about 2 minutes just before I get started with everything. Um, I took a lot of notes throughout the week, and hopefully we'll get through everything tonight. So, I did welcome or invite a lot of people from. Hi, Andrea. I invited a lot of people from another group here on Facebook. So hopefully they'll be able to join us. Just because I'm one of those people that likes to point stuff out. I do have a little stain on my shirt. I was eating spaghetti. I had on a vest, but you know, I took it off because I'm back home and it's hot. But anyway, so my grandmother is in the hospital and she has to have open heart surgery, but she's saying that she doesn't want to do it. So that's what we're dealing with this this week. Um, and of course, it's her choice, but it's just what I have going on personally right now. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna wait a few minutes, about 2 minutes before I get started, and then whoever happens to watch this video later, you can just watch it again because it will be posted on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, so I guess I'll start out with something that doesn't really cover anything specific to social work necessarily. I was thinking about doing like a spring retreat to see if anybody wanted to meet up and not do anything formal. I know I talked about this before in a video on the YouTube channel, but just to meet up and kind of network and hang out. It would be probably late April, early May, or somewhere around that, or even in the fall. So if anybody is interested in that, send me your email address and I will see what the interest is and then go from there. So again, we are live on Facebook and YouTube, so I'll be switching back and forth and seeing if anybody has any questions or comments. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the information that I wanted to cover this evening. So the first thing is, I forgot to pull up that link that I wanted to tell y'all about. I'll have to find it. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and again, I'll just talk about some stuff that isn't really too heavy until we get some more people in here. But I came across a website and a training that I went to throughout the week. And it's to help you learn medications. And it's not to learn medications for the exam. Let me make that clear. It's just if you have medication or if you have a patient or a client who takes medication and you don't know what it is and you just want to know what it's for, the generic name as well as the brand name and just anything associated with that medication, there's a website that I came across. It's called knowyourmeds.com. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here for anybody who wants to check that out. And it also tells you what kind of interactions that medication could have with other medications. So I'm going to put that here, knowyourmeds.com. And I'm going to put it on the YouTube as well. So that's just something to check out. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about was, so you know how people always say that we as social workers should have our own therapist and how we should go to therapy and talk to someone about our issues and our problems so that we can be better clinicians. So I've heard that time and time and time again. And like I've said in past videos, I've gone to therapy before, hadn't really gone back just because I didn't get anything from it. But I decided that I wanted to try it again. And so I attempted to find another therapist this past week. And I went on a website that was suggested by someone in a group that I'm in on Facebook. And I found a therapist that's online. I thought that would be convenient for me since I have all this stuff going on. I would rather just do it online with someone that's licensed and that is trusted. So I went online. I went to the website, checked it out, checked the lady out, and I kind of liked what I saw. So I sent in for a free consultation online. Or, well, you send on her website that you want to do a free consultation, and then she'll call you and schedule a free 15-minute consultation over the phone. So she was supposed to call me at 5:45 one evening this past week. And so I set aside the time because I was really, I really wanted to get into therapy, and I still do. But so I waited for her to call me at 5:45. 5:45 came, no call. So I said, okay, people have stuff that they have going on. It's after work hours and that kind of thing. So I waited for a little while and still no call. So I went ahead. I was actually going to the mall to get new glasses. And so I waited in the car for about 15 minutes. I think that's normal, to give somebody about 10 to 15 minutes in case they're going to be late. So I never got the call. I went ahead and did what I had to do. And then I get a call at I think it was like 7:35. To me, that's way too late. So I was just like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with that because that's just not professional. And I felt like because I hadn't talked to her before, that maybe if something came up, she should have just emailed me and said, hey, something came up and I'll just, can we try to set up another time? And she didn't leave a message either. So she called back. She called twice back to back and I didn't answer. She didn't leave a message. So I'm thinking, okay, that's it. The next day she calls me again and she lets it go to the voicemail and she didn't leave a message. So to me, it was just a little bit too unprofessional. So I didn't follow up with her. I didn't feel like it was my responsibility to follow up with her, especially since we initially connected through email. I felt like she should have emailed me in order to get things going. So I just didn't feel like that was going to be the person for me, just based off her communication and her professionalism. So I'm going to try again at some point. If you know of any online therapy therapists, if you do online therapy for yourself or for clients. I mean, if you're a licensed clinician yourself and you practice on a clinical level and you practice online, send me your information because I am looking for a therapist. I would rather be online just for convenience. So let me know. So that's that. Okay, so the next thing is so I've gone to this training before. It's called the SHIP training. And I've gone to it before. It was 2 years ago that I went, and then they have it again now. And it's about Medicare, mostly Medicare. And I think there's one day that we're going to review Medicaid. And so it's a very long training. So it's over 5 weeks. You go one Tuesday a week for 5 weeks. And they give you this big, thick book. As a matter of fact, I have one. I have the old one. I don't want to go over there and mess with that. But anyway, so they give you this big, thick book, and it's everything you need to know about Medicare. And I think we do a day's worth of training on Medicaid. And so, of course, Medicare is a federal program. Medicaid is also a federal program, but it's run by the states. And so different states have different requirements and qualifications and eligibility and all that kind of thing. For now, South Carolina, where I'm located, did not expand Medicaid. And so only certain people get Medicaid. And it's mostly young people or people who are aged blind or disabled, and they have all these different subcategories for who is eligible for Medicaid. So I've been doing that training just the this past Tuesday was the first Tuesday. So I'll be going again this Tuesday for the second week. But we covered Medicare Part A and Part B in that training on Tuesday. And I'm just curious to know, some people are so confused about the differences between Medicaid and Medicare. I was one of those people who was confused, but when I started working for the hospital, I kind of learned the differences. So I'll be sharing information with you that I get from that training as the weeks go by. But just for the sake of time, I won't get into like a whole lot about it. But Medicare, and y'all may know this already, and so that's why I'm not going to get too deeply into it. But if anybody has any questions, I'm not an expert on it, but I can answer questions for you if you have any questions about Medicare. And, if I don't know the answer, then I'll find it for you. But Medicare Part A is the hospital insurance, and then is basically what they call it. And then Part B is the doctor visits and those kind of things. And then you have a Medicare Advantage plan, and all this stuff that's kind of combined. And then you have the Medicare Part D, which is the prescription coverage. And it's just a whole lot of just information. So I'll be sharing that with you. I didn't prepare anything in particular because I know a lot of people already know about Medicare and Medicaid. So I didn't want to, give you a whole lot of information on that. But if you have any questions, then I'll come prepared next Sunday to answer any questions. Or if you have any questions now, then I could probably answer some things for you right now. But okay. So other than that, let's see. I found a link to title protection. So a lot of people, I have a video on the YouTube channel called Squares versus Rectangles. And it's something like that. I forgot what I named it, but it's basically about the differences between caseworkers and social workers. And it said that all rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles. And so that's kind of how it is with social workers. So you could be a case manager as a social worker, but not necessarily all case workers aren't social workers, but all social workers can be case workers, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, check out the video and I'll break it down a little bit more. But some people were offended by that because also in the video, I said that you have to be lecensed in order to legally call yourself a social worker. And I was speaking specifically in the state of South Carolina. We do have title protection. So yes, you can call yourself a social worker. We do social work. Even if you don't have a license, you still do social work. But in some states, you can't call yourself a social worker unless you're licensed. And so that's really the point I was trying to make. And I think some people were offended by that because maybe they aren't licensed yet, or maybe they aren't social workers. They don't even have a master's degree or bachelor's degree in social work, and they are caseworkers. And I think that some of the people that responded on that video were a little upset about that, but it's just the honest truth to me. So I did find some information because someone left a comment on that video and asked a question about her particular state. So I did some research and I found this whole PDF document of all of the states and what the exemptions are. So if you are able to call yourself a social worker in your state with or without the license, it breaks down all 50 states. So I'm going to send that link. I don't want to waste time trying to pull it up here now because I know that this is a recorded video and people don't want to sit through watching me look for a link, but I did have it. I just didn't have time to pull it up because I was trying to rush here from the hospital and all that stuff. So I will put that in the description box or in the comment section once the video is over. And I think that's important because, in the grand scheme of things, throughout your day-to-day work, it doesn't matter if you call yourself a social worker or not, because you're doing social work. But when it gets to legal situations where maybe you're subpoenaed to court or your company or your agency has a lawsuit against them and you've been documenting yourself as a social worker, but you're not licensed, depending on what state you're in, that could cause you to have some legal problems. And so that's why I found the information for you so you can kind of look through it. And I will post that. Now, that PDF that I found is from 2018, I believe. So just want to make sure that you understand that that's from 2018 and that things may have been updated since that particular PDF was printed or made available on the internet. So make sure you look for the latest information. But I think they're pretty much the same and set in stone unless something happens throughout like election years and that kind of thing. So I'm going to post that for you so that you'll know if your state is one of the ones who says that you can't be called a social worker legally without being licensed. And that's important to know because you don't want to get sued and that kind of thing. Okay. Any questions or anything before I carry on with what I have here? Let's see. We have a few more people on YouTube than we do on Facebook. So any questions? And also, this session is question and answer about anything related to social work. I just have stuff prepared in case nobody has any questions. And I just find things throughout the week, throughout my work week that I come across that I just bring here on Sundays to kind of talk about in case nobody has any questions. But if you have any questions related to the exam, what to expect, we're not going to go over any exam questions here, but if you have any questions about the exam or if you have any difficult cases at work that you want to talk about, if you have anything that's going on in your life, maybe you're stressed out about your job or you're confused about what to do if you want to leave your job or if you love your job, just anything like that. And I'm trying to scroll down and see if I have anything on here. I think I do have some comments here on Facebook. And I know that Andrea, you sent a question or a comment earlier this week, and I'll get to that in just a second. Of course, this thing won't let me scroll down as usual on this comment section so I can see what's going on. But anyway, so I know, Andrea, like I said, you sent a comment earlier this week, and I don't have it pulled up, but I know you were saying that you sometimes have difficulty cutting off work when you're done with your work day, that you're attached and that kind of thing. And so I did want to talk about that. So the thing for me, and everybody's different, and I know, we work with different populations and different people, and your amount of stress could be different from mine. But for me, I work with children with type 1 diabetes and their families, their parents, their siblings, their schools, their guidance counselors, their mental health counselors, principals, just everybody in the whole ecosystem. Okay, let's see. I go to see my therapist as well. They are a big help. Okay. Now it's letting me scroll. So yeah, so it's for me, early on in my career, somebody told me that I should leave work at work, and I took heed to that advice. It's not that easy for some people. I've only taken work home maybe twice, 2 or 3 times out of my career. The first time was when I was working in Columbia at this place called St. Lawrence Place. It's transitional housing for homeless families. And there was a lady there who was also a social worker, and she would always tell the clients, it's not personal, it's business, or it's business, it's not personal. And I hated that saying because it just seemed too formal for the kind of work we were doing. Like, it was a 2-year residential program, and people were allowed to stay there with their families in a 2-bedroom apartment and come to case management every week and life skills every week and all. It was very tight knit. And so whenever we had to evict somebody, she would always say that. She would run down the reasons for eviction, and then she'd say, well, it's not personal, it's just business. And I always told myself I would never say that because I didn't see it as business. Everything was personal for me. Not against the code of ethics or anything like that, but everything was kind of personal for me. So one day, I had to evict this lady because she had been behind on her rent for months. Like they gave her like 9 months and she still didn't have her rent caught up. And again, this is a transitional housing facility. So their rent was based on their income, 30% of their income. And their rent was between $25 and $350 cap. So it was always between those two numbers based on their income. Even if they made a whole lot of money, no matter how, some of them made more money than us as the case managers there, but they would never pay more than $350. So they let her carry on a balance for about 9 months. And then finally she had to leave. So I had to tell her that she had to leave and evict her. And it was on a Friday that they told me I had to pretty much put her out. And so I just felt really, really bad because she was on my caseload and she had 2 little boys. And while she was there, she had a relapse. She wasn't diagnosed with anything, but I really think that she had maybe a touch of paranoid schizophrenia. I didn't diagnose her. She wasn't diagnosed. I just think that she had gone undiagnosed. One day she took her 2 kids to DSS and dropped them off and told them that she couldn't handle it anymore. And then she came to the office and said that she needed help. So we took her to the hospital to get help. And so she made a comeback. She got the help that she needed. And then she got behind on her rent. She couldn't keep a job. So that Friday, they told me I had to let her go on Monday. So I did take work home with me that weekend because I knew all weekend from Friday, Saturday, Sunday that I had to come back on Monday and tell her that she had to leave. And I hate that. Like they were already in a homeless situation and then I had to, put her out all over again. But people know what they're getting into when they sign up for the program. And she knew that they had been giving her chances and stuff like that. So Monday came and I was so just so scared to have to tell her this. And I was younger back then. Like I was in my early to mid 20s back then. And so I was really just starting to get into the career and learn, social work and how to navigate. So I had to tell her that I had to put her out. And I said the words that I had always said I wouldn't say. I was like, it's just business. It's not personal. And I was like, why did I say that? And it was because I didn't really know what else to say. And technically it was business and it wasn't personal. And I guess it kind of fit the situation. But at the same time, I wouldn't see myself using that phrase all the time like that, just for anything. And so that was one time that I took work home, was me having to sit there and think about how I was going to tell this lady who was already homeless, who suffered from mental illness, who was a single parent, who didn't have a job, that she had to go and pretty much be literally homeless again. So that was really tough for me. So I did take that home. Another time, I had a client who died by suicide, and that was hard. Now, I had already left that organization, and then months afterwards, that happened. So I can't say I really took that home, but that really did something to me. Like I had never had that happen before. So of course, I took that home. And then I can't really think of any other time. I know I said there were 3 times, but I can't really think of any other times that I've taken work home with me. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Now, the current job that I have, the kids that I work with are mostly teenagers. They have type 1 diabetes and they have a lot of depression and just stuff that teens shouldn't have to deal with. But now, because I guess because I'm so far in my career, I don't really let that affect me. I don't let work affect me. So I work remotely from home most of the time. Anytime that I'm not at home, I'm either going to a meeting or going to see a patient at an office visit or going to see a school counselor or going to meet with Department of Mental Health for kids. So if I am in the field, it's just for meetings and stuff. So I work primarily from home. I get a lot of work done at home. So people always think that working from home is so great. And it is. I can't lie. It really is. But I work more at home than I do, I think, working in an office. And so I turn my phone on at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I turn my phone off at 5 o'clock in the evening. And I don't turn it on the weekends, and I'm done with it. So I think it just depends on the kind of person you are. Like if you are able, and especially with someone having told me that early on in my career to leave work at work, then I think that's really why I'm able to disconnect. It's because I've been doing it the whole time. So you just have to be able to have that will to step away. So some people aren't able to, and that's fine. Well, I won't say that's fine because you have to put yourself first, and you don't want to give until you don't have anything left to give your clients and your patients during your work hours. So I know some people work late nights and early mornings and they get burnt out and that kind of thing. And I've been burnt out before too, just during regular work hours. So I would say, as far as disconnecting from work is depending on where you work and the kind of work that you do, you have to literally disconnect from it. Like if you have a work phone and you're not on call, then turn your phone on when it's work hours and turn it off when work is over. If you don't have a work phone and you work in an office, depending on the kind of work you do, and people who work with kids, it's a lot different for us because, you have to worry about these children and who they're going home with, situation they're going to be in when they get home and that kind of thing. So some people that really bothers them. And I think also I'm at a point in my career where I know I can't fix everything. Like I've always wanted to fix everything for everybody. And I now understand that I can't. And sometimes even when I'm working, I still feel like if I'm not able to do something for someone, I feel bad about it. Like I still feel like, what else can I do? But we have to understand that we can't fix everything. That you try your best, you do your best, and just be the best social worker that you can be. Like all you can do is what you can do. So I would say, if you can't step away from it, setting boundaries is necessary for self-care. Exactly, Wanda. Setting boundaries is very important because if you take a call from a patient or a client, if you happen to be working and your work hour is over at 5 o'clock and then you happen to be doing a little bit more work until 6 o'clock and your phone rings, you answer it. It's okay. Answer it, help a person out because you're still working. But if you do that every single time, then they're going to think, okay, it's fine for me to call her after 6 o'clock, even though I know that she's done working at 5 o'clock. So you do have to set those boundaries. When I worked at the transitional housing facility, there was a lady who was in the same sorority as me, and people didn't like that because they thought that I was giving her special treatment. But she and I both knew the boundaries that we had between each other, even though we were in the same sorority. What else? There was a lady there who loved to cook. She cooked oxtails, and I love some oxtails. But I couldn't just go over there and eat oxtails every time she cooked or basically anytime she cooked, because then that would be breaking the boundary and it would be showing favoritism towards clients and all that kind of stuff. So you get close to some of the people that you work with, and it sometimes can seem to start becoming personal, but you always have to let people know that it's not a personal relationship and you do have to set those boundaries. And I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all have experienced this as well. When I first started in the field, I was very early 20s and they used to call me green. I don't know if that's a term that they use wherever you're from, but they was like, oh, you're green, you're so green. Whenever you would do stuff and not know better, they were like, oh, you're still new to the field, you're so green. And so starting out in your early 20s, especially if you look younger than you actually are, you will come across clients that are well over your age. So for me, it was really hard to be a case manager for someone who was my mom's age or close to my mom's age. And it was hard for me to be a case manager for someone who was my age, because I was insecure working with the people who were my mom's age. And I was insecure. Well, I wasn't insecure working with people that were my age, but I kind of felt, a little funny about it, because here I am, 22 years old, 23 years old, or I think I was like 24 at that time, 23, 24 years old, telling somebody else my age, not what to do. But when when you work for a program, you follow what, their policies and stuff are. So it's kind of awkward to tell your peer, hey, if you want to have a visitor, come and sign them in. But it all depends on how you carry yourself as a social worker and as a professional in any capacity. So I think that the people who were my age, they respected me because I respected them. I didn't make it seem like, oh, well, I get to tell you what to do and you got to listen, so you better have them come in here and sign. Like, it wasn't anything like that. So if I would catch them with someone on the campus that they knew they didn't sign in, I'd be like, now, come on, you got to sign this person in. I'm going to let it go this time. But they're like, oh, I know, Miss Ashley, I know. And I'm like, okay. So, but if they do it again, you have to be I don't want to say authority figure, but at the same time, for lack of a better word, I don't know what else to call it. You have to know your role, basically. So yes, we are the same age. Yes, you are in the program and I respect you, even though you're homeless and you're participating in this program. But okay, you also knew the rules coming in. So this is what it is. And then as far as working with people that were older, when I first started out, I received a job offer to work at a prison, an all-women's prison facility in Greenwood, South Carolina. And they let me come and tour the place. And I was very insecure about it because I was very young. I was 22 at that time. And I saw all these women who were old. And when you're 22, you're still young, like almost a baby, especially coming out of college and that kind of thing. So even though you're grown, like, you're still kind of like a baby. Not really, but you know what I mean. So to see all these older women, it was like, are they really going to listen to me? Like, what can I say to these women who are in their 40s and 50s and they're going to listen to me? And I was going to teach them life skills. So I declined that job. One, because of the pay, and then two, because of my insecurity. And so I kind of struggled with that at the beginning of my career because I didn't know how to be taken seriously at such a young age. And I looked even younger than I actually was. So I talked with someone about that, and they just told me, you respect people and they'll respect you, and you treat them like people and they'll respect you. And so that's what I did. And so no matter the age, if they were younger, if they were older, if they were my age, then I just treat people with respect. And I don't like to go by the book when it comes to therapy. Like, we've talked about that in past Sunday socials. But when it comes to programs and work, like, I'm by that book. So if it was like a thick packet that everybody signed upon being accepted into the program at the transitional housing place, and they knew all the policies, they knew about housekeeping, they knew about the visitors policy, they knew about all this stuff. And so I made sure they read through everything before they signed it. And then when they slip up and start breaking rules, I don't have to seem like I'm trying to tell them what to do. I just pull out the packet and be like, you remember when you signed this? And here, read this. This is what it says. So you know that you're in the wrong, basically. So that's how I deal with that. And I know that was kind of off topic with Andrea's question, but when Wanda brought up the setting boundaries, I felt like it was a good time to talk about that. So anything else? Any other questions, comments before I go on to the next thing I had planned to talk about? Let's see. Check YouTube. Nope. Facebook. Nope. Okay. So, and for those who joined a little bit later, the first thing I talked about was a website called knowyourmeds.com. And it's just like kind of like a search engine where you can put in the name of a medication and learn about it, learn about what it treats, the generic brand, the name brand, and what kind of interactions it has with other drugs. So I will put that in the comment section or the description box below. And it's called knowyourmeds.com. That's just another thing that I came across this week. And then also I talked about my therapy attempt and how that didn't go well. So I'll be trying again to find a therapist. And I also talked about potentially meeting up at some point if in the spring or maybe the fall. So if anybody is interested in doing like a day-to-day social work meetup, and with people being all over the country, because I've tutored people all the way on the West Coast. I'm here in South Carolina, people up north. Just send me your email if you think that you might be interested in doing a meetup at some point, and just let me know. And I'll send you back some questions to kind of get a feel for where you are, and so that we could find a central location, because I wouldn't want people to come all the way to South Carolina because there's not much here anyway, except like Myrtle Beach and Charleston and that kind of thing, which are two great places in my opinion. But the next metro areas around here are Atlanta and Charlotte. Miami's not too far. So, and it would be very informal, and, it wouldn't be expensive, and you wouldn't have to pay me anything. I would just try to find us a nice, affordable place to just meet up and do fun stuff for like a weekend. Okay, so anyway, let's see what else. Oh, and then I talked about the title protection, which I'll also give y'all information on as well. Now, the main thing, two last things before I get off. The main thing I wanted to talk about is case management certification. Does anybody on here now have their case management certification? Whether you do case management now or you have in the past, have you ever gotten your case management certification? And for people who are watching this back, once I post it on YouTube and on Facebook, you can also comment as well, and you can also send me your information as well. Oh no, good information. You right, mutual respect is key. Thanks. I'm also interested in I don't know why this Facebook thing won't let me scroll. But yeah, so that's the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight, is the case management certification. So at my job, they prefer for us to be certified as case managers. I think we have to work there for 2 years, and then we are eligible to take that exam. I've been at the job for just over 2 years now. So, okay. I am so interested in spring retreat. Great. Okay, good. So, I started looking into this case management certification thing because I guess it's something that's becoming respected, and kind of makes you more marketable, I guess, if you're going to be doing case management in your job, even if that's not your main job title. So I started looking into it. It's another exam. And I also know that social work has a separate case management certification. And then there's like a case management certification, just like in general, I guess. So I'm thinking about taking this exam soon, like this year. I won't say soon because the next time that you can take the exam is in April, I think. March. Yeah. So you can there are 3 times throughout the year that you can take this exam. So you have to register and sign up by March 1st in order to take the exam in August, and you have to apply July 1st through September 30th in order to take the exam in December. So I think it was probably January 1st through like March. You can take it in April, basically. I've missed that deadline, so I didn't write that part down. But the next cycle, though, that you can apply to take this exam is March 1st through May 31st. You can sign up, register, get approved, and then you'll be able to take the exam August of this year. If you miss that cycle, then you can apply July 1st through September 30th in order to take the exam in the month of December. So I'm probably going to do one of those. But it's basically questions dealing with case management. Some people say that they don't study for the exam because they've been doing case management their whole career and they go and they pass it. I probably won't be that kind of person to just go and pay or have my job pay hundreds of dollars for an exam and not study for it, and then I end up failing it. Or me having to pay. I don't know if they'll cover it. I think my job does, but so it's basically 180 questions. You have 3 hours to take it, and only 150 of them count. So it's similar to the license exam. And all of the questions are basically dealing with case management. Now, as a social worker, we know all about case management and that kind of thing, but they also have some nursing stuff on there. And that's another reason why I said I wouldn't just go and try to wing it, because I went to the website and checked some stuff out, and I saw that there's nursing stuff on it. So I'm going to give y'all the website if y'all want to look at it, if you're not already aware of it, of what the website is or what the exam itself is. And it gives you all the information about what's going to be on the exam. And they give you a lot of free material to study. So they have like this whole glossary of all the terms that you need to know, and they have a printout. So, you know, if this is something that's not on your radar, that you have no interest in, then don't worry about it. But if you didn't know about it and this is something that you're just now hearing about and you want more information on it, then I'm going to give that information too. And I'll leave that in the description box as well. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in this comment section on Facebook, just so that y'all can have the website to kind of check it out. So that was the main thing I wanted to talk about. And while I have the website up, let's see. I'm not going to read it to you because I know, like I said, you can go to it on your own. But and you also have to, once you get your certification, just like with the license exam, you have to stay certified and you have to be able to get your CEs, and they have webinars and all that kind of stuff. So that's the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight, is the case manager certification. And like I said, I'm not going to waste time reading all this stuff to you because I just gave you the website. And the website, for those who can't see the comment section yet because you're on YouTube, it's ccmcertification.org. Again, ccmcertification.org. And it gives you all the information. They even have a little video on there that you can kind of look at and see what the steps are and what the process is. And I think that's pretty much it for me tonight. Let's see. How can I? That's another thing I was going to ask y'all. So when I was looking into a new therapist or a therapist to kind of just do therapy with, I was trying to figure out like how can I be a client without feeling like a clinician, especially when I don't have any current stressors in my life. Like, how can I be this licensed social worker with all this experience and knowledge and go and be a client of a therapist, of a counselor, when I don't have any life stressors? Well, now I do. I think when I wrote this down earlier this week, my grandmother wasn't in the hospital, but that's a stressor for me. But I feel like, and I know you can go to therapy even if you don't have anything going on, but I just don't know what I would talk with my therapist about if I don't have like anything stressing me out majorly. So how do y'all deal with that? If you've gone to counseling, like, do you always have an issue? And if you don't have an issue at that current time, because I mean, I have a ton of stuff that I could talk about in my past, but I've already kind of resolved it. I don't mind talking about it more, I guess. But how can you be a client when you don't have anything going on? Because it seems like we seek therapists when we have crisis, and I don't really have a crisis right now. So how do you deal with that? What do you talk about with your therapist when you don't have anything going on? And again, for people who may be watching this later, you can leave a comment in the comment section and let me know. What do you talk about with your therapist when you don't have any current problems? Like, I know we all have a past. And the last thing before I go, very last thing, Socratic Dialogue. So as you know, I'm doing the CPT training, the cognitive process therapy training through MUSC online. And so I did some more of the training. I did a module this week and I was continuing on. Last week, we talked about the technique that they use, which was the stuck points and the avoidance. And the last part of that I didn't get to last week was the Socratic Dialogue. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but we didn't really get too far into it because of the time. I try not to stay on here for more than an hour. So the Socratic Dialogue, it basically helps the patient to discover the truth for themselves as opposed to being told what is true by the therapist. And so basically the therapist is teaching the client critical thinking by asking questions to make the client see how their thinking is illogical. And I think I kind of touched on that last week. But I didn't get to talk about the types of questions. I don't think I got to talk about the types of questions. So there are clarification questions, which examine beliefs or assumptions deeply by requesting more information. So if a client, and like the example I gave you last week about my mom having a car accident and not wanting to go back to that particular location where she had the car accident, I would have to, or a counselor or therapist would ask her clarification questions. So you would examine beliefs or assumptions deeply by requesting more information. So if she says, well, I just don't want to go to that intersection because I know I'm going to have a wreck. And then you would ask a question to get her to clarify that. So you would say, so you know that you're going to have a wreck when you go to that intersection? And then she might say, well, I don't know that I am, but that's just what I feel. And then you would say, well, what makes you feel that way? So you're all of this is about questioning the client to get them to see their illogical thinking. And I think that would be very hard. Like it may sound kind of easy, like when we're just talking about it, but when you actually start having to question somebody on stuff without telling them, you're questioning them to get them to tell you information. Some people are good at that. Like some people like to, it's almost like a mind game. Some people are good at mind games, as we know, but that's what it's kind of like. And then the second kind of question is probing assumptions. So it challenges unquestioned beliefs that underlie stuck points. And if you didn't see the the Sunday social from last week, then you might be a little bit lost and don't know what I'm talking about as far as stuck points and avoidance. But go back and watch it and you'll see. The third kind is probing reasons and evidence, which examine the actual evidence supporting their beliefs, which is usually not very strong. So you would say, so going to that intersection would cause you to have a wreck. How? And then that's probing reasons and evidence. So you're examining the actual evidence that the client has supporting their beliefs, which is usually not very strong. So what is someone going to say when you ask them, going to that intersection where you had the wreck is going to cause you to have another wreck? How? They will have to sit there and think and say, oh, well, I don't really have any evidence of how it's going to happen or if it's going to happen. Then you would feed off of that and say, okay, so you're basically getting the client to see that their thinking is illogical. So even though you had an accident here at this intersection and it caused you trauma, by saying that you're not going to go back because you had that accident and you're traumatized by it, you're in a stuck point. How is that thinking logical? That if you go back, you're going to have an accident again. So you're avoiding that intersection or that area where you had the car accident instead of going to it to overcome your fear and your trauma on it. And then the number 4 type of question, questioning viewpoints and perspectives, which encourages the patient to come up with alternative perspectives. Then you have number 5, analyzing implications. And then number 6, questions about questions. So that's that. I'm going to get more deeply into the actual use of cognitive process therapy once I get into the modules. But those are just the 3 techniques that they use: the avoidance, stuck points, and Socratic dialogue. So, like I said, I don't want to stay on here longer than an hour. We're just under an hour. So just a quick review of what we talked about tonight. We talked about Medicare and Medicaid. We didn't get too deeply into that because I know a lot of us already know about Medicaid and Medicare, but I did want to just let you know that I am in a 5-week training for Medicare and Medicaid, and that if you have any questions or if you have any information that you want to share, then you can let us know. And then also, I'm going to give y'all the link to the PDF that I found with the title protections for every state. So you'll know if your state is one of those states where you can't legally call yourself a social worker without the license, even though we all know that we do social work. And therefore, we technically are social workers. But when we get into the legality aspect of it, we need to make sure that we know what our obligations are as far as being licensed and using that title. We also talked about the case management. Oh, before I forget. So with that case management certification, there is a 15-question free practice test online at memetrics.com. So you can go on there and look at the 15 questions so you can kind of give an idea of what kind of questions would be on that case management exam if you're going to think about taking it. I took it. I had 11 right out of 15. So I don't know what that says, but I had 11 right out of 15. Again, that website is memetrics.com. And I'll put that also in the description box. If you look back at any of the Sunday socials and you go onto the description box, you will see what topics we talked about in that particular Sunday social. So if you want to look at it, if you see any topics that you think you might be interested in from past Sunday socials, then you can check those out. And then we also talked about knowyourmeds.com. And looks like we might have some questions here. I don't, but would like to get one. Yes, and the MCO. Is there a fee for what, Andrea? This would be great on a resume. Yes, it would definitely be great. Um, what I have done in the past is just share what has happened since the last session. There are times when the doctor has gone over some of the things I discussed in previous sessions. If I am not having a crisis, even if given an appointment, I will call back to reschedule the appointment for a few weeks out. At my last session, I hadn't seen my counselor in almost a year. That was due to my work schedule. There was a lot to catch up, especially going into taking the social work exam. My next appointment had to be rescheduled due to my caseload increasing and personal issues. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I don't know what I would talk about. I'm pretty sure something would come up because you know how people like to pry and dig and ask questions, and then you end up having stuff that you didn't even know you wanted to talk about. You said it, case management certification. So yeah, there is a fee for that. I think it's like $300 and something, but it's on that website. So you'll see it. Oh, and I'm going to put the metrics. If you want to kind of look at that 15 practice questions, I'm going to put that in the comment section too. And the link to that PDF for the title protection. So hopefully, I didn't bore y'all. I know I just go rambling on and on about stuff, but I try to go throughout the week and just keep track of things that I come across that I want to talk about. So I encourage y'all to send me stuff that you want to talk about during the Sunday social throughout the week, either on the Facebook page or on the YouTube page. Send me topics. Send me, if you have a hard case, of course, without breaking confidentiality and breaking HIPAA laws and that kind of stuff. Give me like a generic overview of a case that you might be having difficulty with. We'll talk about that. And I keep saying it every week. I have to figure out how to be able to put people in this thing while I'm doing the live so that I can talk to y'all. If anybody knows how to do that, also, let me know so we can figure this thing out before next Sunday, and I can try to do like a conference call and be able to talk to y'all. Because I know, like I said, you don't want to hear me going on and on and on, but I do want to have something to fill the time in, and that's why I come prepared with stuff to talk about. So that being said, I hope y'all have a great week. I hope that if those of you who are continuing to study for the exam, please don't be discouraged if you failed the exam. Please keep going. You can pass the exam. You will pass the exam. I am almost finished updating the material for this year. I'm going to do live tutoring sessions also, and it will be in the group form, and it will cost less if the price is a problem for people. So be on the lookout for that information as well. But I do still have the pre-recorded tutoring series. It's still on special until I start back with live tutoring in February. So in about 2 more weeks, I'll be going back to tutoring one-on-one online. If you need tutoring, it's one-on-one. It's online. It's after work hours. It's fine if you have children or pets or a spouse or a family member or a significant other in the background. It's completely fine. Just be aware of the time that we have together. Also, if you're new to day-to-day social work, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, welcome. Take a look at the videos because apparently a lot of people find them helpful. One of my colleagues, this lady that I went to grad school with, sent me a message on Facebook earlier this week, a couple days ago, and she lives in Charleston. She works at MUSC, I believe, which is the Medical University of South Carolina. And she told me that I'm social media famous down in Charleston because a lot of people have used Day-to-Day Social Work YouTube channel to help them pass their exam. And that they send their interns there and that kind of thing. So I'm just glad that the videos are helpful. The tutoring is also helpful. So if you would prefer to do tutoring, I encourage you, as always, to study and try to take the exam on your own. the first time, because it is possible to pass the exam on your own without tutoring. And then if you happen to not pass the exam the first time, or if you just feel like you need tutoring before you take the exam, if it's your first time, then let me know. You can go online and get a free online consultation, and then we'll go from there. So let's get licensed. For those of you who don't know, I'm currently under supervision for my clinical. In South Carolina, it's called the Licensed Independent Social Worker Clinical Practice. So it's LISWCP, and then they also have an LISWAP, which is Advanced Practice, which is more macro level focused. But I'm doing the clinical track because I've decided that I want to do therapy, even though I said I don't and that I never would. But working with the kids that I work with, I think I do, because I think I'll be helpful. So I will see y'all next Sunday. Invite your colleagues to watch. Send me topics. But as the week goes by, I'll be compiling a list of things that I'll talk about. So happy studying. Welcome. Take a look at the 120 something videos that are on the channel. Look at the YouTube testimonials. Go to the website and look at the online testimonials that are on the website as well. Everything that you need to know is in that first video on the day-to-day social work page. So have a good week, and I will see y'all next Sunday.